Distinguished ministers, esteemed delegates, and dear colleagues, good morning and welcome to the Emirate of Dubai. Welcome to the United Arab Emirates. It's my honor to open the UAE first UAE Africa Tourism Investment Summit. When I say the first, this is not the last. And this is a milestone that brings together our governments, institutional investors, development partners around a common purpose: to place tourism and investment at the heart of Africa's growth agenda. Allow me to begin by thanking Mr. Jonathan Worsley, Chairman and the CEO of Bench, for his partnership and for helping us make this platform a reality. Your support and convening power have been invaluable. The Bench also is holding the FHS Africa next year in Kenya from the 31st of March to April 1st, and for more information, the Bench team is here and available to showcase more information about it if you have any further questions. And I also want to thank my team at the Ministry of Economy and Tourism and our colleagues across government entities who worked tirelessly over the past few weeks to make this summit possible. Ladies and gentlemen, tourism has always been more than a leisure and travel. It's one of the most powerful instruments for sustainable development, job creation, small business development, and cross-border cooperation. It's also an inclusive sector par excellence that empowers millions of women and young people. In Africa, the tourism sector is still recovering. Prior to the pandemic, the sector supported over 22 million jobs and contributed roughly 180 billion to GDP according to the UN Tourism. Yet, this represents only a fraction of its potential. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, the sector could add another $168 billion to the continent economy and create over 18 million new jobs. The summit today is about unlocking the potential. It is about building a pipeline of bankable projects that can mobilize capital, technology, and skills, and ultimately translate ambition into action. The UAE believes in Africa and the future and its role as a vital partner for shared prosperity. Our relationship has moved far beyond trade and long-term investment and co-development. Between the years of 2019 and 2023, UAE companies announced over $110 billion in new projects across Africa, of which nearly $72 billion targeted in renewable energy, infrastructure, and logistics. This makes the UAE one of the top 4 investors on the continent, after the United States, China, and the European Union. More interestingly, the UAE, a small but dynamic economy, is the single large investor in new greenfield projects in Africa. Moreover, we have more than 550 flights that connect us together weekly. These are not abstract numbers. They represent airports, ports, tourism zones, energy corridors, and digital infrastructure that connect markets and communities. They represent a model of partnership built on mutual benefit, not aid, not on co-creation, and not dependency. 2 decades ago, we faced a similar question here in the UAE: how to transform tourism from a seasonal activity into a growth engine. It wasn't an easy task given the state of infrastructure at that time and the hot climate, among other things. Nonetheless, through strategic planning, visa facilitation, infrastructure investment, and strong public-private collaboration, tourism now accounts for 13% of our GDP and supports more than 1 million jobs in 2024. It's also catalyzed progress in aviation, hospitality, technology, and entrepreneurship. This transformation gives us confidence that Africa's own tourism revolution is achievable with the right investment, coordination, and enabling environment. Today, ministers and investors will engage in practical discussions focused on one outcome above all: mobilizing investments where it matters most. To support this, we have developed the investment mapping in the tourism sector in Africa, a joint stock-taking exercise conducted with participating countries. This mapping identifies priority projects across tourism, aviation, logistics, and infrastructure that have the potential to generate billions of dollars in GDP and create tens of thousands of new jobs across the continent. The document is a starting point of partnership that can grow over time. By consolidating this information into one reference, we are making it easier for investors, development banks, and governments to align and act. Later today, the ministers present here will review and adopt a joint statement capturing the following shared priorities. A, tourism as a driver for sustainable and inclusive growth. B, the mobilization of capital and connectivity. And C, our joint commitment to innovation, MSMEs, and climate-resilient development. This declaration, along with investment mapping, will form the basis for follow-up mechanism between our governments and institutions. And Excellencies, let us remember that tourism future depends on how responsibly we grow. The UAE is proud to partner with African countries on renewable energy, green aviation, and sustainable destination management. The investments that protect ecosystem while creating livelihoods. Through initiatives like Masdar Renewable Projects, DP World Smart Logistics, Ittihad Sustainable Aviation Research, we are proving that the environmental responsibility and economic opportunity can go hand in hand. We are partners in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Dear friends, the summit is the beginning of a new chapter between Africa and the United Arab Emirates. Together, we can transform tourism from an overlooked sector into a cornerstone of economic resilience. To investors here today, the UAE is not only a destination, it's a partner for expansion. To our friends from Africa, our engagement does not end with this summit. And to international organizations, we invite you to help de-risk tourism investments through blended finance, guarantees, and climate resilience infrastructure. On behalf of the government of the United Arab Emirates, I thank all participating ministers, our partners from development finance institutions, and the private sector leaders who have joined us. I once again extend special thanks to the bench team for their partnership and to my colleagues who helped bring this vision to life. Let us use this platform not only to talk about investment, but to make it happen, to create real jobs, real infrastructure, and real impact for our people. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for setting the stage. And next up, it gives us a great pleasure to invite His Excellency, Marcio de Jesus Lopez Daniel, Minister of Hotels and Tourism of the Republic of Angola and representing the African Union Presidency, to present his keynote. Let's give him a welcome.
His Excellencies, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor and huge responsibility to address you in this investment summit, which represents far more than a mere forum. It is the space where our ambition, Africans' ambitions, meets the global capital through our partnership with AAU. Allow me first of all to congratulate His Excellency, the Minister of Economy and Tourism of the United Arab Emirates, Abdullah bin Tuq Al Mari, for the invitation and for the hosting this important event, which conveys a clear message. Africa is not only seeking tourists, it's inviting builders of the future and partners in the continent's development. As well known, Africa faces an infrastructure finance gap estimated by the African Development Bank at between 130 to 150 billions of US dollars per year. Our focus is not merely on identifying projects, but on moving towards real mobilization of financial execution. Through this, we aim to provide concrete and responses to Africa development needs, aligning them with the global financial system. Allow me to inform you that tomorrow in Luanda, the capital seat of Angola, the President of the Republic of Angola is hosting one of the biggest milestones in terms of infrastructure construction in Africa. We will be hosting the Infrastructure Summit for finance infrastructure in Africa. We believe that will be a gap, will be a milestone to turning point for investment in infrastructure in our continent. With over 70% of Africa's population under the age of 30, it's no exaggeration to say that the future of a global innovation will also bear the African imprint. This vast, young, innovative, and active human capital is what guarantees the sustainability and the profitability of the investment we seek to mobilize. It is within this vision of connectivity, continental integration, and the demographic dynamism that the tourism sector in Africa assumes strategic role. According to UN Tourism, during the first half of the 2025, our continent recorded the highest global tourism performance, with 12% increase in international arrivals. This proves that Africa's moment is now. Angola naturally is part of the success story. Our country holds a unique energy, a mosaic that combines nature, history, culture, and above all, the warm hospitality of our people. In this regard, the construction of a modern convention center is already underway with a capability of 3,000 people. However, we recognize that seeking for investment is just one hand of the problem. We need, as Africans, to create the proper business environment to receive those investments that we are seeking, creating the stability in terms of tax, regulatory, and good business environment, friendly business environment to attract and create the bankable projects that we want to reach by those kind of events. Angola has created a program that we call a war declaration for bureaucracy in tourism. Because if we have a country with bureaucracy for investors, they will definitely seek another destinations to invest. And this is our responsibility as a state to create this kind of environment to achieve the goal of having the foreign direct investment. And we believe that we, as African country, will only succeed in terms of foreign tourism, in foreign direct investment, not only when the investors goes to our countries, but when they goes to our countries, they make business, they profit with this business, but most important, after that, they decide not to repatriate the dividends, the capitals, but to reinvest in the countries. This is when we feel that we have been succeed attracting foreign direct investment. Angola will be the host country of the next ITB Berlin Fair, which is the largest international tourism fair in the world. This is opportunity not just to Angola. is opportunity to present our continent as whole and to show to the world how rich and how diverse is our culture, and how rich and how diverse is the warm hospitality of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, what Angola offers today is a political stability, administrative reforms, and a diversified portfolio of real opportunities with high profitable potential. What we ask in return is investment with a purpose. Yes, we welcome profit, but that generates social impact, inclusion, and transformation in our communities. Angola is also committed with the integration within the continent. We believe with the Luanda Declaration that have been adopted in June this year after the UN and ICAO ministerial meeting on tourism and air connectivity, with one of the best ways in order to improve the connectivity within African countries, and with this declaration, which increase the visa-free policy and the open skies policy, is the key to tourism development. Ladies and gentlemen, as African Union pro tempore presidency, Angola is committed and pushing with other African countries to development of our continent in terms of tourism, attracting the best and the better investors in our continent. I finalize thanking again the AUA Minister of Tourism and Economy for hosting us and pushing for Africa in terms of investment. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for those words and sharing Angola's vision, in addition for tourism development and investment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now another honor and a privilege to invite His Excellency Rodney M. Kumba, Minister of Tourism, Zambia, and representing the UN Tourism Regional Commission for Africa, to deliver the keynote address. Let's give him a welcome.
Your Excellency Abdullah bin Tok Almari, the Minister, Economy and Tourism, United Arab Emirates, allow me also to recognize Her Excellency Sheikha Nessa Al-Nawaz, our new Secretary General-elect for UN Tourism. We congratulate you. Allow me also, ladies and gentlemen, to recognize my two chairs for the Africa Commission, Minister Hanatu, Minister Daniel. Colleagues, thank you very much for being here with me this morning. And indeed, my other colleague ministers here present from the African continent, thank you very much for coming in numbers. I think we'd like to give you a round of applause for that. And most of all, the private sector, those of you who are yearning to invest in our continent and everywhere else, we recognize you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am very, very delighted for having to deliver these remarks at the UAE Africa Tourism and Investment Summit 2025, an inaugural summit, and you may have heard from the minister saying this is not the last, it's the many to come. This very important forum symbolizes our shared determination to build bridges of trade, investment, and tourism between the United Arab Emirates and the continent of Africa. Distinguished guests, on behalf of the Commission for Africa, I extend my sincere gratitude to the government of the United Arab Emirates and the organizers for hosting this strategic gathering. I must make mention, Your Excellency, that your courtesies that we extended to ourselves and indeed our other delegates is second to none. Excellencies, Zambia, just as many other African countries, participation in this summit underscores our government's commitment to attracting investment, strengthening partnerships, and promoting tourism as a driver of sustainable development, real job creation, and obviously inclusive prosperity. Excellencies, Africa is a continent of extraordinary promise. Most time I liken it to the best-kept secret. It is home to unparalleled natural beauty, cultural diversity, and a youthful but very dynamic population. Tourism in our continent remains one of the greatest untapped opportunities of our time. While it already contributes significantly to our GDP, its full potential can only be realized through deeper collaboration in investments, skills development, and connectivity. This is precisely, Excellencies, the kind of partnership that this summit seeks to forge between Africa and that of the UAE. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Zambia is privileged to be chair of the Tourism Commission for Africa 2025-2027. And we do pledge as Zambia to take the leadership role for the African region within the UN tourism framework. And I also want to just indicate to you that at the last meeting, the last Executive Council meeting, Zambia again managed to get re-elected to sit on the Executive Council, which is 2025-2029. Now, as Zambia, we don't take this responsibility lightly. The whole idea, ladies and gentlemen, is to ensure that what Africa requires, I'm happy that His Excellency did speak about the investment that is already happening in Africa, out of China, out of the US. The consolidated investment that you're getting out of the UAE into Africa is something that we could speak of. And indeed, some of the great strides that we're making within our respective countries in Africa, which are actually speaking to receiving that investment, is something that we pride ourselves with. So, Excellencies, Africa today outpaces global growth. Currently, the GDP projected at 3.9% in 2025, and we're looking at it sitting close to 4.5% by 2030, which is just a couple of years from today. The population of 1.5 billion people, with close to 60% of its population being under 25, also gives you an opportunity of where to take it. Today's tourism is purely based on the young ones. They are adventure seekers. And these are the young boys and girls who not only do we look for opportunities for them for real jobs, we should also look for them for opportunities for where they can actually have fun. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Africa today, in all sectors, has received close to 50 billion in foreign direct investment. And I just want to indicate that these are greenfield. And what we see within the tourism sector sits close to about 6.6 billion between 2019 and that of 2024. This translated into 195 projects, which invariably translated into 15,000 real jobs. We can do more, and I think this particular fora is one which obviously we'll be able to work with. Excellencies, distinguished guests, Zambia has over the years demonstrated its ability to bounce back from the challenges and seize new opportunities. According to the IMF, Zambia's economic outlook continues to show promise and that of resilience, with a projected growth rate of 4.3 in 2023, 4.7 in 2024, and a projected 5.8 in 2025. This consistent growth rate of 3.2% over the last decade surpasses sub-Saharan Africa average of 3.0, and it affirms our nation's resilience and stability. This optimistic projections underscores Zambia's potential for sustained economic expansion and that of development. And this we continue to see in a number of African countries and making sure that we're able to receive more and more investment. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, between 2019 and 2025, Zambia received 88 FDI projects in all sectors with an announced total capex of 803 million, meaning 101 million per project, and expecting to create over 14,000 direct jobs. Again, this is something that we strongly believe should be able to be translated to all other African countries with the support from the private sector that is sitting with us here this morning. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our cooperation, or rather the strengthening of our ties with the Gulf economies, particularly the UAE, where the cooperation extends across trade, investments, highlights not only Zambia's resource potential, but also opportunities for diversification into tourism-related industries. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Africa value proposition that you'll be hearing from our colleague ministers who are in here today is something which I strongly believe you should not let go. With 52 billion in tourism exports in 2024 and 41% share of service exports, this is largely global. So you already see the opportunity that exists within the African continent. And I'm very delighted that our resolve as Africa, obviously, is to ensure that any bureaucracy, any stumbling block, anything that would inhibit potential investment in our respective countries is actually cleared. And very delighted also that each and every one of us was able to present a minimum of 5 projects, I believe, to this particular forum. These are turnkey investment projects. And I strongly believe that is how all of us should be able to trade, to allow investment to come in. We don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of trying to figure out who the minister is, who the chief is. Ultimately, all we always expect from any potential investor is how deep your pocket is. That is what we want to see. Create that investment, plug in that money into an economy, show growth, pay the right taxes, employ our boys and girls, and we'll be shaking hands and enjoying coffee almost every other day. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our international tourist arrivals in our continent continues to rebound, pre-pandemic levels. And I just want to also indicate to you, and it's something which obviously my colleague, Minister of Angola, did make mention. We have worked hand in glove within the Commission for Africa to see how best we could open our skies. One of the biggest challenges that we've been faced with, obviously, is that of connectivity. We've grappled, but I think we seem to have probably a solution in sight, rather. So we will be able to make sure that we create opportunities that will be able to open up skies for us. It's 10 times more difficult to travel Africa than it is to travel Europe. And we ask ourselves why. So we're definitely getting to a solution. And also, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in Africa today, we're talking about the Africa Free Continental Trade Agreement. That in itself is what is telling us to create more trade amongst our African continent. And the more market that you're talking about here, the 1.5 billion Africans, is a sure way of, well, rather, it would be a bait for you to invest in our continent so that you're able to get as much revenue as you possibly can. And indeed, from our colleagues in Africa, we're talking about creating more infrastructure, robust infrastructure that will be able to allow us to trade. We in Zambia, we say not one-stop border, but we're talking about non-stop borders. The exact same way we pride with our wildlife in our various countries, that's the exact same way we want tourists to roam, investment to roam, the exact same way our animals roam, without passports, without visas, and without any restrictions. And that, for us in Africa, is what we're trying to achieve. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Africa remains fully committed to creating business environment that is transparent, secure, and investor-friendly. Today, we extend a heartfelt invitation to all partners from the UAE and beyond. Come and invest in Africa. There's no better time to invest in Africa than now. Join us in shaping a tourism sector that celebrates nature, that sustains communities, and also drives a shared prosperity. In Africa, we do not just offer a destination. We offer an experience, a partnership, and a promise to a brighter and sustainable future. I thank you for your kind attention.